Community Preservation Committee, Thursday, April 6, 2017. In attendance, John Wally, Dennis Clark, David Gunn, Chris Pratt, Ruth Preston, Marcus Phelps, Bob Horchak, Patrick Roach, Karen Reed, and Karen DeMayo.
Yes. I want everybody to know that we're going to be advertising our annual public meeting. It's scheduled for Wednesday, May 3rd at 7 o'clock in the auditorium. But I suggested that we meet up here first, just in case there's some business we have to discuss.
I think a half an hour.
Yeah, why don't we meet at 6:30 up here?
Okay.
See if there's anything we have to attend to, and then we'll all march downstairs.
Would that be considered a public meeting too?
Yes,
So that'll have to be on the agenda
yeah.
yeah, okay.
It'll be posted as a meeting from 6:30 to
To 7?
7.
Okay.
And then a second one for the informational meeting.
Got it.
Okay, first on the agenda is review the canal and lock restoration project application. I know. I reviewed it.
Do you need any extra copies, or
Can
did you?
I have a copy? I gave them all a copy.
Okay.
Actually, I left one at my house, so if Dick has an extra one, I'll take it.
10 demerits.
So I'm pretty sure
Didn't
we'll
I
be
put one
looking
in your
back
folder?
tonight.
Tonight.
Oh, I don't know.
For the canal? I got the Zero Road one here.
You got it? Huh, there it is.
Well,
Okay.
there was one from last week, I believe.
It's the same as the one we
Same
had
one,
last
okay.
week.
Yeah.
Another one?
And it's actually signed by Carl now.
I'll take that one. That's not the one I wanted.
I will start the commentary if you'd like. As much as I like Dick, I do not like this project. To spend $150,000 of CPC funds on what I consider paperwork and environmental okays to go ahead and do a project. At the end of the $150,000, if we're lucky, we're gonna have a pile of papers.
All the bid documents and bid, sort through the bids and award. And the money for it is we're continue working with the state to get the money to do the actual work,
Yeah, but we
construction.
still have no guarantee of any of that, right?
Well, except that it is a Commonwealth Great Pond, and so that makes it eligible for lots of sources. But one of the things that is a prerequisite to getting a lot of the different funds, like an S319 grant, is it has to be designed to
I
capture
understand
that,
all of that,
you know, designed and permitted.
but I think,
I think it's a gamble with our money to get that pushed through. If the project doesn't go forward, we waste $150,000.
We have to do it no matter what eventually, and our problem is that our time is running out on the lakes in terms of, if you've read the application and the number of algae blooms and the blue-green, the cyanobacteria algae blooms that have occurred, and the frequency of occurrence is increasing, and the severity of occurrence is increasing. Therefore, we can wind up with a dead lake. You go out there, and all the income that we get, the additional income from all those taxpayers, self-included, they're on the lakes, are gonna yell and scream blue bloody murder that you can't put your feet in the water. You can't let your pets go in the water, you can't swim, you can't boat. Everything gets shut down on the water. It's end of use of the water.
Dick,
It's also, well, let me just finish. It
All right, go
also
ahead.
feeds our drinking water that we all use.
Yeah.
And if that goes south, that goes into our drinking water. So I ask you then, where would you get the drinking water?
I don't want you to misinterpret what I'm saying. I'm not saying it's not an important project, and I'm not saying it shouldn't be done. I think it should be done, and it's a very important project. But being CPC money, personally, I think it's a gamble, and I think the town should pay for the engineering and the, what did you call it, the
Permitting, design permitting.
permitting. Because we come under a great deal of scrutiny from the people who pay the surtax. And if we end up looking stupid, in other words, we spend $150,000 and we end up saying, oh, we can't do it, or we can't get the grant, or one of the permits is not accepted. I don't want the CPC to be in that position.
But it's okay for the town to be in that position, Mr. Chairman?
It's fine with me, yeah.
Yeah,
It's taxpayer money.
yeah.
It's
No matter
taxpayer
what.
money. You're telling me the project is worthwhile,
Well,
and.
I guess I have a question, like, I heard Dick did come to the town before here. Is there a reason that you didn't finance it through the finance committee?
We're under a lot of pressure financially. We're facing what could be $1 million out of the budget this year that we intended to have in the budget if the court decision on the Granville School goes against us.
And you can't use CPC money for that.
And you can't use CPC money for that.
I think an important item here is, for reference, was the reply from the Department of Revenue. There was a letter attached, and the example was dredging of a pond. And they did get into some reasonable discussion of the use of the words preservation, rehabilitation, and restoration. So,
But they did come
That's-
back with a new one because the rules changed.
well, this was just, this email was dated March 29th,
Right, but he just sent back,
2017.
he
I
just
think
sent,
the original one was done in 2008.
No, that was a new one, that was
The new
resent.
one?
it was resent, but they just,
back After they asked for an opinion.
Right.
They sent the same one back that we
Right.
originally gotten.
yeah,
Okay.
they just sent it back without any thought. In fact, the last communications I had with them is, because they didn't come back with an opinion on it,
It was just a regurgitation of the law.
regurgitation, and I sent back and I said, basically, why? You can't give an opinion? That's what, you're there for, in so
So
many
we
words.
don't have that document to use.
But what was, in the information that Carl circulated, John, you got it, I saw, and Bob, I think you got it, I'm not sure how many,
I didn't get it.
I'm not sure how many he sent it to, but he asked, he said, as far as what came in the very last one, was it would be then taken back with our attorneys, and they would like to see it approved here, and then it can go to a town warrant and let the townspeople decide. And meanwhile, in parallel, they will get the reading, the total reading on whether it can or cannot be. But it looks like it can be because it is historic, and it is, we're restoring an historic feature that is owned by the town. It's on town land. It's not on state land. The lakes are state. The canal is not. The canal is town land. Everything surrounding the canal is town land, both sides.
But you're not doing this for historic purposes.
It will restore it to its original 9 feet deep by 15 feet wide. There's a canal lock down there that will get, as best you can restore it, get it so that it's identified and restored. And it's also recreational. It opens it up. Again, it used to be used by boating, by canoes, kayaks. You can't even go down it with a canoe or a kayak right now. what we just opened temporarily, Beaver Dam, but it just keeps getting blocked by beaver dams because it's so shallow. They can build in water that's only a couple feet deep, but if you get it back to 9 feet, they say they don't build in it.
Dick, wasn't the canal originally only a 3-foot depth when they were?
No, it's 9
using-
feet. We have the
when they
records of
originally-
it.
Well, they did that several years later, didn't they, to improve water flow, but wasn't, when they were running actual barges?
It was 9 feet deep for the
Wasn't only
barges.
3 feet
No,
depth?
it's 9 feet.
Okay. And it ran from south to north, didn't it?
You mean the
The
flow?
flow of the water was south to north? And now, Joe, so
That
the-
I don't know.
I
So the
don't see
lock.
how that could
I don't
the
think
lock
so
was
because
intended
we-
as a historic.
downhill
if you-
slope.
If you
No,
wanna have
no,
it
it's
historic,
down,
it's gonna.
no, it's
be
down,
going
it's
direction.
down gradient as you keep going
See
to.
how they
It
can
went
make it flow
through-
uphill.
My
It's-
understanding was that the flow of the water was originally from south to north, and that the canal depth for barges was a lot shallower than that 9 feet.
No.
But this is just feedback I've gotten from a
Yeah.
couple of people relative to that.
All the records that we've had on it, it's 9 feet wide, 9 feet deep by 15 feet wide. And it did flow from north to south because the locks keep dropping you as you head south. And
Yeah.
if it didn't flow that way, you wouldn't be having locks dropping it as you head south. Because all the rivers that are along here flow south, they don't flow north. And this, by the way, as I noted in the application, was part of Lake Hitchcock,
The
which,
glacier.
where the Connecticut River originally was. Congamine is part of the original Connecticut River, which was Lake Hitchcock.
Well, the original point I was trying to make is that if this is considered a restoration project in total, I would see 3 phases. Phase 1 is what you're proposing, the CPA fund now,
Yeah.
150,000.
Yeah.
Phase 2 is the actual physical
Work,
dredging work.
yep.
And phase 3 is maintenance. In my opinion, CPA could be used for phase 2 only. I don't think we should be paying for paperwork, an analysis, a design. We should be paying for something, if it's legal to do, to use CPA money, we should be paying for the dredging and the actual physical results that it creates this canal. The application sort of blends everything together, and I separate it out into the 3 phases. Definitely, we can't pay for maintenance.
Right.
That's clear.
Absolutely.
So I would say if the courts or the lawyers, whoever, figure it out, possibly we could reconsider it again for the contribute to the dredging part of it. But phase 1, the paperwork, the design, analysis, RFP, I don't see it happening. I just don't think it's right. It's taxpayer money, and it's not a whole project. It's,
And
It's the first step in the
CPA
project.
money's never been used for design of any of our parks or any of our,
it could be if it was the whole
and
project.
that's not what I asked. I said,
If it's
has
the
it
whole
ever been
project.
used? Right.
Yeah.
And the whole project needs all the additional funding, which, and that was, those have been phased.
So if we were asking for the $1 million, the 150,000 for the design and the 850,000 for the dredging,
For the construction.
you'd be in favor of that?
I would not be, I would have to wait and see what the lawyers say if the money can be used for dredging.
What I
Because in
read today
here,
basically said, they said they're not gonna make a yes or no, they said they basically left it up to us.
Right.
okay, if
It's
they
our
leave it up to
responsibility.
us, then I would say no, because it's rehabilitation. And I don't think we should be spending CPA money on that.
It's risk.
I mean, you understand that the canal is creating a problem for the lakes with the algae bloom. And so if we don't save the canal, then we can't save the lakes.
I don't think Marcus is disputing the
No.
importance
I
of what
think it's
needs
an
to be
important
done. I
project
think
and
we're
we
all
should
on board
contribute
with that. I mean, that
At
is
some point in time.
paramount. It's the way it's
Then
funded.
why would you not take the responsibility of approving the project? If you're on
The
board
way,
with
the
it?
way I'm looking at it, the way I'm looking at it is this the project? Are we funding the project?
So,
Are
but
we going,
that's my
are we
point.
going to vote on $1 million?
that-
Because that's what we're doing in essence, if we're gonna say, go ahead, because they're not gonna get it from you. Are they gonna get the 150 from you?
But that's my point.
Well,
If-
that's
if-
what I'm saying. If-
We
if
got
it-
50 come from.
Is it going to
Suffield,
go
too.
somewhere from here? where's that other money coming from?
Dick's gonna probably get a grant on it.
That's what we've been,
We don't
no,
know.
that's what we've been working on. And we
They've
had,
been
there's
working on
one
grants.
point 2 million sitting in a bond bill that we're trying to get released, a state bond bill.
Yes, Dennis, you
Can
may
I,
speak.
can I say something? Dick, if they dredge that canal out, would it cure the algae bloom problem?
No, we have the other part of that, which is part of the 1.2 million, is to dredge the shallow areas that takes the, that's explained in here, takes the phosphorus-laden materials in the shallow areas. The alum treatment will be used in the deep areas where it doesn't get disturbed by the props and by wave action. And that will, in essence, neutralize the phosphorus that's literally by the tons.
So
in
the answer is
center.
no, it would not cure the
But
algae
it's
problem.
part-
and
it's
you would
explained
still
it's
have
part of
to-
3
You would
phases.
still have to dredge the pond to be able to cure that algae
You have to
problem.
alum treat the pond.
Alum treat, and that's a Band-Aid, then you'd have to dredge the pond. The canal is
But
not
if you
gonna-
don't dredge the
But you-
canal, then it just continues to back up.
Right.
That's
And
not
it
true.
ruins the
That's
alum,
not true. No, that's
alum
not true. It's
treatment.
on the bottom of the lake, it's not on the top.
But there's
It's on
no
the
outlet.
bottom.
But there's no outlet, Dennis.
It doesn't matter, outlet is through a hose that gets sucked out of the lake, it's not gonna go through that.
No, the
The
outlet.
canal-
water can't get out of the
No, it
lake.
doesn't come off the bottom and go through that
It's
canal.
not- that's not gonna
Not
happen.
in your lifetime, that would ever happen. Not even
Water
close.
flows from the top of the lake and it'll flow out the canal. It's
But
not
it
gonna
also
come from the-
carries with it the
I'll let Dick
nutrients,
answer that
and you want to get the nutrients out that are in
It's
suspension.
not- It wouldn't hurt.
But
if
the
it
other
was
thing
bad
is
enough.
that right now we're flooded because the water has no place to go. Because the canal is blocked. So you now got people that are sitting there with water coming up in their backyards. And that's another problem with erosion. The canal has, it's identified the steps we have to do, and Ken Wagner went through, who's the limnologist that we have as a consultant, and he has given us the steps. And the first step is open up the canal. That takes care of the flooding, and it takes a lot of the nutrients that are in suspension out. Second is to alum treat it, and third is to dredge the shallow areas, the coves and whatnot in the lakes.
Does anyone have anything new to say?
I'll make a motion to not recommend using Community Preservation Act funds for the restore flow to Congamon Canal Brook outlet project.
You have a second?
I'll second it.
Any further discussion? You have all that, Ruth? Oh, we got it on
I'm all
tape.
set.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? One opposed? Anyone abstaining? Okay. Thanks, Dick.
Yeah?
The APR application for 15 Larrow Road and 123 North Long Yard Road. Do you have a packet on that? Or is this just the appraisal?
That's the, I'll let Dennis explain that.
Is everyone familiar where this
Somebody's
34
got a-
acres is?
I know Narrow Road. Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay. You got your fingerprints now.
I gave it to Carl.
Is it in there okay?
This was brought to the selectmen when they were asking about priority lands to preserve. This is one of the ones that was on the list for the Agricultural Commission, Conservation Commission.
Where is it?
Yeah, Larrow and North Long
This is
Yard.
Larrow.
So it's all contained in that fork area?
No, there's some on the west side of Larrow.
And reach
Right in
back
the
over
parcel.
there. Back over there. So the map is in here. Mine's in black and white.
Oh, I got a good copy.
Yeah, you got the good copy.
You should, Chair, you should
Oh, that's all right. I've seen it. It's been approved by the state. The state has offered to, offer them $730,000, being the difference between, its best use and farmland. Its best use was,
870,000.
870,000 and what was it, 140 as a farm?
Yes,
Right, so the difference in between that, I take it you're the owners.
He's calling himself the manager. The manager.
Did you sign in? Or would you sign when you go out so I have the names? Probably on there anyway.
Is this-
Well, the warrant article has already been
Oh, that's
prepared by
on.
the state. It's been given to the select board, and we just have to approve the expenditure of $73,000 as a 10% match.
Do we know, is this recognized as a open space area that the town is interested in?
We brought it to the selectmen's meeting, yes, it was on the list
It's
for
on that list.
conservation and for agricultural commission. It is right next to the well, right next to the wells, actually,
The West Springfield Wellhead, yeah.
It abuts their ownership.
but it's their property, and if you look at it, it's pretty much all prime farmland, it doesn't get much better than that.
You're gonna recommend it, right? You're gonna recommend it, right?
Are there any other APRs up in that area?
Close to there?
Yeah,
Didn't see any, no.
okay. I mean, that's another plus if we get some up there secured. And that does create a fairly large piece.
There might be another one on that road, but I believe that Mr. McNaughton owns that one too, right? The other piece of property?
The farm to the south, that's not in APR,
Mm,
at this point anyway. I might consider that in the future as well.
future. I'm sorry, pronounce your name right, McLaughlin? or
McLaughlin.
McLaughlin, sorry. You have the names. And the state hasn't set a closing date on this yet, but it could be,
Well, it's
Sorry,
scheduled for
wait.
fiscal 18, which I believe is July 1st, right?
right,
Uh,
correct.
At some point after that.
Anyone have any questions, comments?
You want a motion?
I sure do.
I'll make a motion to approve this project application for, using preservation funds, for $73,000, to, support the, APR application.
Which account do you have that money in?
That's what I was just gonna ask.
I believe the
Open
warrant,
space?
I'm pretty sure the warrant said from the general fund, but I'm not absolutely positive.
Did you calculate it today?
It would need to be from the general fund because at the last meeting,
Right.
there was a motion made to utilize all of the open space money for the North Pond project, and then some reserve. It looks like there's gonna be at least 150,000 left in the, probably 155,000 left in the unreserved. So,
So it becomes
It's there.
from the general fund,
Okay.
general unreserved.
I'll second.
Motion's made and seconded. If no one has any objections or further comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And thank you for coming in.
Thank
Okay,
you.
thank you.
On to the playscape.
The application hasn't arrived.
She hasn't.
She's coming?
She's here. They were standing out there.
Oh.
Come right up.
Hello, everybody.
Hello.
Are you the superintendent?
Yes,
What's your name?
Jennifer Willard.
Thank you.
Just take some and pass them around. We have 10 here. Jen, can you sit next to me, Jen? You get it? Yep. What do I do without you? Honest to goodness.
Is there one left for my records?
Looks like it. 10.
Oh, you're gonna need one. Okay. Oh, my, look at it in the water.
That's her chair.
Just like school.
Yeah, those itchy kids in the seats.
You get the bouncy ball chairs.
Mm-hmm, we have those.
Yeah.
Is that you to start? Okay, so we are here today presenting the paper Powder Mill Playground project. One of the first things when I met Kim, when I was touring the school last year, she said, "Hi, I'm the principal of Powder Mill School and we need a new playground." I said, "Oh, okay," I didn't even have the job yet. She was just taking me on a tour. They were taking all the potential new superintendents around. So I knew about the playground even before I took the job. And I started off the packet with just a picture. This is just a snapshot of what it looked like on Monday. Monday, we didn't have a lot of rain, but this is what happens in just a typical rainy day. I can't even imagine what it looks like right now. So during the building project, they did look at relocating the Powder Mill Playground to a different area. And I've included what it looks like as a attachment in here. If you go towards the end. They had Dietz and Company architects look at it and look at 2 possible locations. And this was simply just the relocation of the current playground, the playscape and the 2 sets of swings. They had put $80,000 in the MSBA project to fund it, and when they got the bid for just relocating the playground, it came to about $135,000 just for relocating what was currently there. So at that time, I wasn't superintendent, but they said, we can't take this on right now. We don't have the money to do it. So the parents and the PTO they've come to our school committee meetings. They've addressed it to me out in the community and said, we really need to do something with the Powder Mill Playground. They are currently raising money on their own to put towards this project, and the school department or the regional school district has put money into their capital improvement plan this year to address the initial needs. It could not be a 1-year project if we had to do it on our own, because the cost of it, we're estimating at about $290,000. So just to take you through it, one of the issues is the location. When they built the track, they took down a lot of the trees that were currently there. So there is no shade at the playscape. The other issue is right now it is not handicap accessible. So only students who can navigate the difficult terrain are able to get over to this playscape. So what we're proposing is to make this a playground project in connection with the track that is currently there and make it a family destination. Parents can walk on the track, they can run the track, while kids are in their view and they can play over on the playscape, not underwater, but on higher terrain that will also have some shade components to it. We know the dangers of the sun. We know that the playscape out in the hot sun can get warm. So we really want to address lots of different needs in this project.
Is this just the playground at Powder Mill that you're undertaking here
Yes,
first?
yes.
Okay. And can you explain to me the difference between these, as far as, is this Powder Mill School here?
This is Powder Mill School, yes.
So Feeding Hills Roads runs this way?
Yes.
Okay. And now you've got two separate prints that both refer to themselves as Progress and Revised Playground prints, so.
Two different possible ways to design it. One has the playscape over here and the swing set here and the swing set here.
Okay.
Another one has the playscape right there with the swings going in this direction.
Okay, so you have two options that you're proposing. Cost for the two about the same?
Well, interesting, these are not actually what we're going to be proposing. We are going to, this is just the relocation of what is currently there, which was $135,000. What the parents are really interested in is making it handicap accessible with also some shade components. So we are looking to add some newer play features to the playscape that is there. So it's not just relocating it, but is building up the land and adding additional,
It would be new playground equipment.
New playground equipment.
Structure.
Okay.
I mean, I know our slide has a hole in it, you know, it's aged, it's old. And this has been underwater since before myself being at Powder Mill. The water actually stretches in that whole ground area. When we were looking at this during the project time, the whole field was underwater, quite deep, actually. Jim Vincent was on the school committee then, and we had taken a look out. It freezes in the winter time, and now you got an ice rink instead, and it really, we've tried a couple other places. We've tried out in the parking lot along Powder Mill Road, as far as for some outdoor space for the kids so they could be outside, because the playground's not been accessible. But we have no fencing along the road, so we have balls that go. We've tried the baseball field, but that can be wet as well, saturated, so then kids get wet clothes, and then they need to change their clothes, so it runs into problems. And so we definitely need to do something with addressing the height of the land because of the water.
that would be step one of the
Yeah.
project.
Right.
So where
Yeah.
is this proposed in relation to the track?
It would be towards the back end of Powder Mill School. So right now it's
Kind of
really
like on that corner of the gymnasium on that
Mhm.
backside.
Okay,
right.
the complete
Further
other,
away
the
from
complete
Powder,
other side.
from
What they use
57.
as like a soccer field, sometimes it's
And probably
done-
maybe a little bit further
Further
down.
down.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah, it would be raised up all over there. That's the first step in this project is bringing in an engineer and getting the land level so that it doesn't flood.
So we have two companies actually coming in right now that I've reached out to. One and we're meeting with Friday, and the other one will be Monday after vacation. Just because they do, see what they would propose. You need somebody to look at the land and building it up, and the structures that they have to offer, and that they're handicap accessible.
That's a big piece.
Yeah, I think to use the CPC funds, it has to be compliant,
absolutely,
handicap
yes.
accessibility.
And it
right.
needs to be.
You're just gonna do it
Right.
and not make it that way and use CPC funds.
And I know we
So
mentioned the
that's part of it.
maintenance would be on our custodial staff on keeping an eye on, and also doing our safety audits,
Right.
having a playground inspector inspect those on a regular basis.
Yep, yearly basis.
Have you looked at regrading this area?
That's what had been done in the pictures when we were trying to see if we could implement it as part of the building project. And so they had done some work. I don't know to what extent, how in-depth they looked at it.
There's two issues. Number one, Route 57 dumps water into the parking lot.
Right.
And the second issue is that entire parking lot is sheet flow into the
That's,
grass area.
ask
There's
if there's any plan
There's no
to
drainage.
fix that.
It was cut from the building project when the first vote failed.
I know we were hoping with the lighting that they were gonna be working on, their stoplights and the sewage drainage or whatever, that
That'll address
maybe
part of it,
some of
but-
it would be addressed that
But the
way.
parking lot will still sheet flow into the,
Right, that's
into the field.
quite a good sized area.
Right.
But we have planned to do
And if
along
you
the
don't
way
let it sheet flow
paving.
off of that, you're gonna have
To
a
the
gonna have a
soaked
lake
parking
in
lot.
the
parking
So, and if you're not getting rid of the water, I don't see, you have to put it somewhere.
Right.
And see, that's more the issue than the playground itself. If you took care of the water issue, the playground might not be the problem.
The town planner looked at that last year, and he said it's sitting on top of a septic tank, a septic system,
It is.
which doesn't help.
Mm. I wouldn't think that would help the septic system.
No.
Now, is there a plan for that school to become part of the sewage, sewer line project?
Powder Mill? All three schools will be
Right.
connected to it, yes.
Have you looked into having the water mitigated before it gets to the playground area? And what expense that might be?
Have I personally? No,
Well, I
have
mean, as
not.
anyone, do we have a price on that? That might be a cheaper route. It seems like the water is really the only issue.
It is partially the issue. I don't know if there can be a lot, as you said, a lot of digging and done around here because of the septic system, so we have to be very careful where they dig and what drainage they put in there. I know that the playscape was designed for more of the middle school students, and now we have grades 3 and 4 in the
Right.
building as well, which needs to address where they are in their gross motor skills.
So you're gonna be putting smaller, newer equipment in there too as well?
Well, that
Or
would be to
just-
build more, have the playground structure to start, and there's components that could be added over time, even through more fundraising that are separate from this structure, that but also add to the playground opportunities. There's, I didn't bring a catalog, I probably should have, because I have them all marked of some ideas of different things they can be doing besides just one structure.
Right.
That build upon their skills.
And we did include some of the state frameworks in here as well that go along with the use of playscape. It's not just for fun, but we do have state standards that we need to address, and using a variety of non-locomotive twisting, balancing, extending skills as individuals and in teams. And playscapes really are a great place to address teamwork and moving through and navigating. They look like little silly balancing the circles and looks like the fireman's pole, but all of it has a specific purpose that
Right.
they address when they come out and what it addresses. About long-term fitness goals. We talked about the benefits of sports and activity. And then we also addressed the interpersonal relationships and how kids navigate their way, taking turns on playscapes. And it's not really a place that teachers are necessarily there, monitoring as they move along, they're watching. But it's a great place for kids to really learn some of those soft skills of taking turns, of when somebody's one direction, not necessarily just waiting, but knowing when to begin. It's a lot of skills you wouldn't think, because as kids, we just went to the playground and we just did these things and we learned it on our own. But the students
That's what
nowadays.
kids need to do. Things they don't get out other
They
than
don't
this
get out
place.
because everything is an organized play date or an organized sport. This
Or a
isn't an
video
organized
game.
sport.
But also,
So-
moving this further down, you are moving away from our issue of more where the water is, the further we go down. And the other issue too, and we've talked about trying to maybe mitigate the water, is that we also don't want it then impacting the track, which there's been a lot of
Right.
money that's spent there. So we have to be careful where the water gets diverted, or how it
I
gets
think
diverted.
into the grounds.
Now, you're asking for funds from the CPA, $175,000. Are you asking Granville and Talon for any extra money? Or are you just,
It's in the capital plan for 100,000, so they would pay their fair share of the,
they would pay their fair share of the $100,000?
Correct.
They're not paying their fair share of the $175,000 that you're asking for in addition?
correct.
Okay, so you're asking the Southwick taxpayers to pick up the brunt of this when it's a school expense, which should be shared amongst the three towns.
It does have a
Same-
direct
same
benefit.
Property is owned
to-
by the town of Southwick.
Right,
Right.
it's the school
I
district's
understand what you're saying, Karen.
responsibility.
Karen, I
And it's
understand what
for
you're
the
saying.
use of all three
Right.
communities. And within the agreement, you agreed to share the expenses of all three communities. So they should share in the full cost of it, not just a portion of it.
Has anybody mapped out where the septic tank and the leach field are?
I know the engineers who constructed the drawings, they knew where it was at that time.
Because you could put, like Chris was talking about, you could put an infiltration system in there to handle the water.
That system will be at some point going away when you connect into the sewer line, correct?
Right.
The sep-
So that whole septic tank and drain and field will not be used. It
It
would
could
be
be part
abandoned.
of our infiltration
It would be
system.
abandoned. Oh, you're thinking of using the piping? Yeah.
We had a similar problem at the park when we were developing it. In the soccer field, we had an area, it was so flat for so long, the water just puddled up there, and that's what we did, we put an infiltration system in. You know, the catch basin and a whole lot of infiltrators underneath the ground, and the water goes in there and seeps in below.
Is that because of soil structure, like a layer of clay or something that was tending to keep it up and you had to get it
Well,
below?
Here, the loom and the chips add is
Yeah. And in the winter, the
Area.
ground is frozen as well, which doesn't allow water to penetrate.
Isn't there also an asphalt material that is being used in a lot of parking lots today that allows water to infiltrate through it?
Yeah, but then you have to plow that and it can get messy.
Well, I mean, they've already got a parking lot that's not allowing water to get through. Wondering what the cost to replace that flat asphalt with the materials that does allow water to pass through, if that would be something to help mitigate the water running off, instead of running off and into this area, letting it seep directly into the ground. Just a thought.
Expensive.
No,
I
that
would
is-
bet
that
it'd
is
be more than
expensive.
290,000, but
Yeah.
pervious pavement, you have to
Yeah,
create a structure underneath, you know.
Okay.
It does work well when it's.
That's a large area to
installed.
do that kind of
Yeah.
project,
Yeah,
like
have
driveways
have a
and
pretty good
walkways and things like that are,
Pretty big expense
Yeah.
associated with it, okay.
right.
Fair enough.
Well, you mentioned too, the existing playscape may not be handicapped.
It is not.
It is not. so-
No, the biggest piece is we need to really create a specialized surface that this playscape will be on, with paths to get to and from pavement to the playscape. That's a big
And
issue.
the drawings that the engineers had done when we were looking at it shows the sidewalks to make it accessible to where things were moved.
And it's also, there's no shade where it is right now. There's no ability to add any shade.
We have had kids trying to stay under this one little area, and you can only fit like 5 kids under it when it's a warm day.
What are you gonna do for shade on the new one?
Well, some of the place structures have shades as part of the structure. And, you know, it won't cover the whole thing, but it covers a portion. And then also, you have opportunities to build the other extra structures. Say you want to put in some picnic tables, and you can put shading over that. And that's why I'm saying there's things that could be added over time to improve and increase upon. It doesn't, we won't necessarily have to do everything that maybe we would want to do at once, but it'd be a work in progress. Definitely adding shade is a piece, and you get the warm summer days. We have no reprieve either in the classrooms. It's stagnant. We have fans to blow. The playground, the kids need to get out and play, but
Right.
you also need to cool off, not get overheated. So, we do need to provide some shade.
And while I appreciate Karen's position on this, I think the thought process of us coming to this board to present this was that the track does get a fair amount of community use after school. And by having this in the same proximity, now the kids with the parents can enjoy both things on non-school hours.
I mean, this playground on non-school hours, when it's not flooded, is also used when parents are at the track, but, there's times where they can't use it. I think having, you know, an improved structure too, will even
Right.
be more of a draw for the families to
Community.
come and use the space, both the track and the playground.
What are you gonna use for a surface in the fall zones?
That's a great question. I'm not sure of what it's called right now. Again, the engineer will give us
They have
the
different
actual name.
options, you know, you can do
Yep.
wood chips, you can do the recycled rubber, and then there's just a spray surface, which I don't know what it's called either, so it'd be totally smooth. And that would also be a way for if anybody was wheelchair bound to be able
Right.
to maneuver around the playground, because it's hard to move through the mulch. and
Right.
It's hard to
Mulch
move through
washes
the
away
pieces
and
of rubber
moves
as
away.
well, so I think we'll be looking more at that
Mhm.
surface, the spray surface.
Mhm.
I mean, there's a maintenance piece, we have to continue with that as well.
Right.
It's similar to the track, actually.
It's a
Right.
rubberized
Very
rubberized
similar.
surface.
We don't want to build it for just today. We want to build it for years to come, and make sure that it's sustainable and that we won't be putting a Band-Aid on it every few years, but that we're putting a quality product for the families that's durable for the winter and the rain.
Where are we with process? Normally, we get this application, we look at it, review it, see if anything has changed, and then we vote on it at the next meeting.
Well, we don't have the money this year to start with. But, we'd have money in 2018.
2018, we're estimating 42,400 in the open space fund, and we'd have 284,928 in the general unreserved. That money usually comes in November. We know we have
It
it.
used to be October, but this year came November.
I think by the law, we can obligate future funds, anticipated funds, I believe, but again, we'd have to look at that and see. You know, you're anticipating based on past history of what we've gotten in through CPA. And this is what was presented to the Finance Committee this year, for fiscal year 2018.
Our PTO continues to do fundraising. We designated our golf tournament funds in May last year, which was our first time doing a golf tournament after a few years, so I believe that was around 3,000. We did another fundraiser in February. We've got another 7,000. We've got the golf tournament again in May, where half of the proceeds, because we have 2 schools that are being supported through the PTO, we'll get half of the proceeds again towards building our playground fund. So hopefully, at least by May, we should have 12, 15,000 so far. And we also had a $500 donation from a company, and the parent works at the, one of our parents works at this company, and they do donations to organizations. And it'd be continued fundraising until we're able to put the project, together. And the district's been, designating or trying to plan some of the capital funding to also be supporting this work. But it'll take time.
Right.
It's a big ticket.
And we want to do it right. We don't want to rush it and just get it done. We want to make sure that we're doing it correctly so that there's not issues down the line that we have to fix. We want to make sure we have the best people in, giving us the best possible plan, not just taking one person, but getting multiple bids. We want to look at sustainability. We want to look at the most inclusive playscape and one that is in close proximity to the track for the parents.
Is this time sensitive?
We'd like to get it done within the next year or two, yes.
Okay, year or two.
So
We put
how-
money
How
aside.
far away, you're proposing a new playscape, how far away is it gonna be from the one at Woodland?
There's quite a
Couple hundred
distance
Quite a
there.
distance, no.
There is quite a distance.
You can't see the woodland playscape from the track. It's different.
And you got the
And
woods
it's much
too, that's
smaller. Yeah, the woodland playscape is also for much younger children. Yes, like Ms. Sasso
But
said.
it is
it's-
blocked from with the woods there.
Mhm.
It's, if you have the track, you have the wood line, and you have the playscape
Mhm.
set further in a little bit.
Okay, till next meeting, put on it.
That's what I would like to do. Wait till the next meeting.
I would also like to talk to the engineers with planning and discuss other possibilities. See if they have any other ideas.
Should we invite the engineers to come to one of our meetings then?
Yeah.
School board doesn't currently have anybody under contract. That proposal is in the packet was put together during the
2015.
building project.
Mhm.
So at this time, there is no.
So
way.
that
not
was
really
put
a-
together 3 years ago.
At this point, yeah, about that time frame.
So
I think it's
we know the
dated
construction process gone on
2015.
Since then too, so.
But our project is over, so that we're not connected with them.
Correct.
We do have, I don't know if, with the two companies that have playground products and do this work, I don't know if we'll have more information after those meetings
Mhm.
to share as being something more current
Yeah.
on what they would
I
propose.
think I'd like to see something a little bit more concrete as far as what's gonna actually
What
happen,
it's gonna look like.
right?
So they're both doing a site visit. I don't know what kind of information, we'll have to see what I can get from them.
I can search through and find the name of the playground expert that did the one at Wally Park. She was very happy to come out and help plan it all out and what things to have in it and what things not to.
Well, I think that's what these two gentlemen do as well, but if you have somebody you want
We would-
also.
yep.
Oh, I don't, you need to talk to somebody.
Well, we have a
You get
couple. You
special
wanna talk to
discount.
them?
Special discount.
You don't happen to know the name, do you, or the company,
I
or?
can look it up.
That'd be great.
It's a company that sells all of this stuff.
Was it Ultiplay?
Amazing.
Well, that's one I have coming.
Some of the stuff-
Ultiplay
They're
and
really good.
That's,
Yeah.
New England Recreation something, so those are the two I've got coming right now.
I'll check and see what I have.
And Talbert or something, it was
Sure I
a
have.
gentleman. Joseph Talbert,
I have
maybe?
quite a folder.
I'm sure you do.
I can imagine.
Well, when is your next meeting?
Well, we're gonna have a brief meeting, May 3rd, but I'd like to schedule it at a full meeting after that.
So that means it wouldn't go on this year's warrant article.
oh, it can't go on this year's one.
Yeah, we don't have the money for it this year anyway, so.
Well, it can't go on, it's too late to submit it, right? So it'd have to go on next year, so we don't have to be in a real rush unless there's a special.
There's
time.
usually a special town
Yeah,
meeting or
it's a
something.
special, that'll be earlier.
But we'll get,
I think there's a placeholder on the warrant article now for this. So we could address this on the May 3rd meeting. Okay, so the May 3rd meeting wouldn't work.
Unless they wanna meet next Tuesday, you can do that.
I don't know that for us, if you're talking
Won't
about
have
for us or
more
somebody else, we
information.
wouldn't
They
have
have to
any
get the
information
information
yet.
still.
Yeah.
You wouldn't have the- you wouldn't
I
have
We
the-
can
have-
meet, but it won't be any different than tonight,
Got
right?
more pictures.
why don't you let Ruth know when you, have it a little more together? And, a Tuesday that these people can attend, that's when we usually meet again.
Yeah, generally.
And, I'll do my investigation of who did the one at the park, and I'll see if I can get her there at the same time if she's someone different.
Well, I meet with the two gentlemen, the business manager will be meeting as well, the two of us with them. I don't know what they give us after that, or what they would, I'm assuming maybe some kind of a proposal. Whether we could get them here to attend the meeting, I don't know, because we haven't contracted with them either, so I don't know if it's.
They're looking to sell stuff.
They are looking to sell, yes, but am I gonna have two competitors at the same table?
That may be good.
So I don't know if I could,
Independent.
how that works,
Right,
with
I
two
agree,
competitors
Kim.
at the same table, or whether I'm presenting what they've presented.
Right.
As,
Why don't you have them each present it to you, and you
Yeah.
let us know which one you think is more feasible, and I'll see if I can get a third if it's a different person.
thank you. That'd be great.
And let Ruth know when you get this all together, and we'll have a meeting.
All right, very good.
Sounds good.
Thank you for your time, we appreciate
for
it,
coming in.
thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you.
Unless you really want an ice skating rink for the winter time, I mean, that's a.
That's not gonna happen anymore, maybe a couple of years ago, but
How about a
not
wading
lately.
pool? It's a spray park.
Yeah,
Spray
Yeah.
park.
Yeah.
It's the swimming pool we didn't get in at the regional.
that's right.
Thank
I
you.
always get a little chuckle when I drive by and see it.
Yeah, isn't it pretty?
My kids played in the puddles there.
Different generation. I used to go with my rubber boots on and go out and play in the rain. Not anymore.
Do you need an extra holder left behind? Is there anybody else that would need one?
Anyway,
Okay,
My daughter lives in the.
very good, thank you.
Have a good night.
Right.
It's just like, wow, you know, a kid falls.
Think that's it?
New
Make a
business?
motion, oh,
New
we have
business?
somebody
We
that,
have public comment.
You had a public comment there?
We have a,
Public comment.
well, we're supposed to have a public comment. We're supposed to have new business and old business as well, but it's not
Comment.
listed.
Arthur, come on up.
Approach the bench.
Oh, always.
no, it's more like a chair, but,
Thank you. Good evening to everybody.
good evening, Art.
I'm here representing the Finance Committee tonight. We met earlier this week, and we had, after we had a chance to review the report regarding North Pond, the North Pond project, and the supplemental appraisal report, and there were a few questions that the Finance Committee had. It's fairly straightforward. In the report, it seemed to indicate that the entire parcel hadn't ever been surveyed, not the entire, but a portion of the parcel had never been surveyed, and we were curious as to whether that would take place. It seems like something that would be appropriate before, the town, or the state for that matter, acquired something. The other
it
issue,
was just surveyed.
pardon me?
It was just surveyed. I have it in here.
Oh, so the whole parcel's been done?
No, and
No.
it hasn't been surveyed. They're not planning on, Franklin Land Trust doesn't want to survey until they know the town approves it at the town meeting.
Oh, okay.
They don't want it, 'cause that's quite a bit of money to
Sure.
do the
Yep.
survey.
No,
What was
I understand
one
that.
we just paid for?
That was an appraisal.
That's an appraisal,
Appraisal.
different.
Okay.
The survey, they're
We
gonna
paid
wait
for the-
till after,
yeah.
if it gets approved at town
Okay.
meeting, then they would do the survey.
Okay, well, that makes sense. So it's on your radar screen?
Yes.
And it's something that will take place. Another question was, the report also mentioned that it did not address any potential liens on the property, which is, again, a legal review that would, I assume, would take place at some point, but apparently hasn't yet. And again, we just wanted to kind of raise the issue and float it out there.
Yeah.
And then the third question regarded actually the overall status of the project right now, because the Finance Committee, everybody was fairly unclear as to what the direction of the project is right now. Originally, it was one parcel that the town was gonna own, and now it's been apparently split up into two parcels, and the state may own one and the town may own another. And we were very unclear as to how the finances would relate to the splitting of the parcels. So, does that mean that the town has a lower overall liability in terms of the fundraising? Or is there,
Well, it turns out the
Percentage?
town's is higher.
so the town's gonna have to raise more money
Yeah.
to own a smaller parcel? I mean, that's kind of the question.
It's more valuable.
Yeah,
process.
Right.
Oh, no, no, that's not a question of the
Yeah.
value.
Yeah.
That's not the question. The question is,
Surveyor.
what
Yeah.
are the values and how are they apportioned? And what is the town gonna be responsible for?
We have, the appraiser did split that up for us and tell us the two values. The value of the parcel that,
Yeah.
we're proposing that wildlife take, and the part we're keeping.
It's in your report there, Art, your supplemental report.
Okay, now that's out of the original 5 million?
Yeah.
So, and our value was 3.25 million, I believe. Is that correct? As it was split up? So the town is gonna be responsible for a total of 3.25 million approximately?
Right.
Yeah.
That's what would appear in a warrant article?
No.
I've got a question.
Oh,
I thought we approved $1 million.
right.
I had asked the question, what happens to the project if Franklin Land Trust does not raise the other $2 million? And she said, the project does not go forward. So now here you're saying that the town is responsible for over $3 million? How does the town become responsible for over $3 million when all we put forward was $1 million and that's what we agreed? Are you gonna
Well,
come back, are you gonna somehow come
CPC
back?
CPA is giving $1 million, but
Okay,
there's another part of what needs to be
Donations
raised,
and-
which isn't really, we're not asking the town to bond for that. They didn't want to bond for the rest of the money, so it's coming through fundraisers and grants and things like that.
Okay, that's what, I just wanted to
Yeah.
make sure that somehow it's not
No, it's
gonna come
not,
back,
no.
that now we've gotta come up with $2 million more, us, this
No, we
CPC
would
here.
have,
If
if
the
that wasn't
town-
happened, we'd have already said, if it was there, we would have already asked for that.
And that's it, and
All right,
that,
so-
and that's it.
so is there
We
an
don't have any
approxi-
more, if the town wants to do something else out of other funds, let them do it, okay.
Exactly.
So is there an approximation at this point of the other money that's been appropriated or committed to our portion, the 3.25 million? We have $1 million of CPA money. You mentioned grants. Is there a dollar figure attached to that?
How much so far have we gotten in
Yeah,
grants?
there's a breakdown. I'm sure that we could give you exact dollar amounts. The Franklin Land Trust puts it out periodically on their website and sends it to us every time we get another donation.
Well, the
on it.
water commissioners are contributing.
Yeah, we're looking at West Springfield, we're looking at Suffield, we're looking at,
So there was a $400,000
That's from
number
the state.
mentioned for the water component. Dick Reynolds mentioned it to me earlier this evening. I know there were grants that were originally committed to the project, but because the parcel's been split now, are those?
Well, there were separate grants. There were some that were for Fish and Game. They got their own grants for their portion,
Okay.
and we got some,
we got the
we
400,000.
got 400,000 for our
Okay.
portion.
All right, so I guess what I'm asking for
So-
is, can you give us an update on all the money that we
Yeah,
have
there should
in-
be some
in
information,
our bank
absolutely.
account towards the project now?
Absolutely.
I mean, it changes every day.
And we can-
give you
I
an
understand,
update.
I understand.
I mean, we can probably let you in on the updates as weekly, or if you want it,
Yeah.
or whatever. I mean,
That's fine. Is
That's-
that- is
I
that-
believe the motion, I mean, the warrant article says that if this doesn't come to fruition because there's not enough funds, then the $1 million.
it goes back to
Did
the,
you see,
That
the-
we don't
did you
spend the
see,
money until
Right.
it's
did
done.
you see the warrant article
Another
when
question I
when the
Yeah.
town council got done with it?
Well, it's at the
Yes.
closing.
No.
It's about this
Right.
long,
That was
it's
our
got
agreement.
everything in there that you can imagine.
But
They
the money won't
tell-
go anywhere
I hate-
till.
No, we're not taking any
Town councils.
position or anything like that. We're just trying to understand
No, I see
what
how,
you're saying.
how
Yeah.
it's working right now.
Yeah.
how it's coming
Wildlife has
together.
got their
Right.
money for their portion, we have our money for our portion of it. And
Okay.
I think it was always a plan to do it that way, that they were gonna get a piece towards, that's what they
Right,
wanted.
and that was
They
want
wanted-
kind of what we settled
Originally, they
on.
wanted $1 million
Right.
worth of property. Well, they're gonna have to get more now. They're paying over $2 million, right, for their.
Okay, all right, that's
Yeah.
fine, that's great.
The, main.
We got more
the-
than
the
what we
main
originally were
meeting,
gonna get.
We're gonna have Franklin Trust, they'll be here. And we'll give out all the information to anybody who's interested. But that would be a good place for you.
May 3rd, the
May
informational
3rd,
meeting on
in
the
the auditorium
3rd.
at 7 o'clock.
We
Did
get
you
the
hear that
finance.
in the beginning of the meeting?
No,
May 3rd, Wednesday, in the auditorium, 7 PM.
okay, May
We're
3rd.
gonna advertise
Is
it.
the CPC's annual informational
Oh,
session.
okay, that's gonna be part of
Plus
that?
Yeah,
Okay.
Franklin
probably a
Land
big
Trust,
part.
would-
Yeah,
What time is that?
7 o'clock.
Wednesday, May 3rd.
Chris and I are going to a meeting in Westboro, the Fish and Wildlife, to have a meeting for this whole thing, to go through everything we were just talking about. And we'll have all the figures and where we stand at this time. That's on Good Friday.
yeah, not this Friday, but next Friday.
Okay, very good, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sorry to keep you waiting this long.
No, no, no problem.
Should put public comments in the beginning.
Yeah.
No, this wasn't gonna be a typical meeting. Do you know what that lady's out there for?
I don't know.
Is there something you wanted?
No, I was just listening for the playground thing, because she has money allocated for $160,000 of repaving the Woodland, Powder Mill parking lot, and with the sewer coming through on 57, I think if we regrade the water, all my kids have been through there, and I walk the track occasionally, and I think it's a little abundant, the money there. I think we could do something different there. I don't think this is, we need to spend our money on when, she's asking already for a lot of other, shopping lists here.
Okay.
And they're doing, right now, they're doing work on Route 57.
That's what I
They're
mean,
supposed
with
to
57,
create
they can
the, as
transfer
they're
some
doing
of that
drainage
water,
out there.
repave that parking lot, and maybe part of our problem will disappear,
problem
like you said,
should
Chris,
disappear.
regrade that and.
I think that's
send
the
water to
biggest
filtration
problem is the
system,
way
and
the
there's
water
already a
flows
drain
right in.
center of the playground.
Hopefully, the drainage they're doing out there will.
And that
supposed to-
playground already supported, the Woodland playground already supported K through 5. So when she says that it wasn't suitable for those children, we've already been using it for K through 5.
Right.
We just moved the kids over the grass, so, and it is, you can see the playground from both
It can't be
places.
more than
No,
a few
well,
hundred
she
feet
could actually
from
utilize
where
the
their
Woodland
proposed
playground
one
if
is.
it was a problem and just stagger the recesses. The recesses are barely 20 minutes.
Because where they're planning on moving the playground to that back corner, you could see it from places on the track, but if you're at the far end of the track and you've got little kids, you're still not gonna be
Well, I
able to
think if
watch
your
them as
kids-
closely as you
Right.
should.
And I think if you want your kids to play, you're gonna go to Wally Park or you're gonna come to our 50 Park, which we just recapped. We just finished it.
From the birthday party.
Because a lot of the sports now are
And you have
practicing
shade.
over at Wally, and they're not practicing right there in all
So
those fields.
I'm looking at the school budget, and I just think that, you know, in the big picture, the shopping list is getting very long on the school budget side, and that's not one of my priorities. I'm in for a little more education piece.
Put a catch basin and catch all the
What
water
is your
from the
name?
park lot.
Jean,
Put it
Riepel,
underground,
Right.
yeah. like
Fort
John
Running
was
Road,
saying.
REOPEL.
It might be cheaper. Less expensive.
Thank you.
Make a motion to adjourn?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I abstain.
You're staying? Did I hear you say
Staying.
I'm staying?
I
That's what,
abstain.
no, that's not what you said. You said you're
Next
staying.
meeting,
You get to stay then.
Southwick on stage.
Boy, I'm gonna have to come in tomorrow. I think he's not gonna be happier than me.
Oh.
I just.
Dennis, I had to sit right across from him.
I love the guy.